Got you covered. Working from home? No problem. With next day nationwide delivery, you can order all of your office products online from the safety and comfort of your home office. Is your office just getting back to work? You'll find everything you need at huntoffice.ie. Serving Ireland's business community for over 21 years. Huntoffice.ie.
Guaranteed Irish, the national symbol of trust in business, has been supporting local businesses for almost 50 years.
Today, Guaranteed Irish supports almost 2,000 businesses, from Indigenous SMEs to locally based multinationals across various sectors, employing over 100,000 people across Ireland. It's no surprise that 77% of consumers agree by buying from Guaranteed Irish businesses, they're supporting a more sustainable economy.
So look out for the G. Guaranteedirish.ie. Altogether better.
Every bumpy road, every bit of weather, every school run, every moment of reflection, every...
It's rush hour on a Friday. What did you expect?
Little disagreement, every tight squeeze. Everything about a Skoda is made for Ireland.
Eric is a Wi-Fi demon.
My speciality is causing Wi-Fi black spots. Emails from the bathroom, dropped video calls and that kind of thing. And you know, I once made a woman watch an entire box set under the stairs.
But with Virgin Media's new Wi-Fi guarantee, eliminating Wi-Fi black spots, Eric finds himself out of a job.
So I'm an influencer now. At least I still get to annoy people.
Get Wi-Fi in every part of every room with Virgin Media's new Wi-Fi guarantee. Virgin Media. Bring on amazing.
Subject to availability, the Wi-Fi guarantee service can be added for €5 extra a month. Minimum speed 30 megabits per second in every room using our smart Wi-Fi pods. Terms and conditions apply. See virginmedia.ie.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
You're very welcome back. We have Billy Joe Padden on the line. Hey, Billy Joe.
Good evening, Joe.
So we are headed towards the final weekend of the league fixtures before we get into finals, and it's interesting, of the 32 teams partaking, only 8 teams have nothing to play for this weekend coming, which is another advertisement for the benefits of the league, that after however many matches you have just 8 teams, the likes of Galway promoted or down relegated, but just 8 teams effectively have a dead rubber. So, you know, it turns out getting these teams against other teams of a similar level and letting them go at it is the way to go.
Yeah, it sure seems that way. I think over the last number of years, most GAA fans have recognised the quality and the excitement that the Alliance National Leagues generate. I think, if nothing else, the teams react to the fact that you have to play a number of games in a short space of time. There's nothing worse than when you're a player yourself waiting 5 and 6 weeks for your next meaningful game. The drudgery of training in between games really is not appealing, and everyone looks forward to games. And I just think it's been a really outstanding competition so far, and I think it's pretty obvious that whatever form or improvements that occur in the championship over the coming years, that I think we get the best out of our games when you see teams play each other more often. And I think, even to expand on your point, even weaker counties, how are they going to improve? Or with a new manager, say, for example, coming in, they need the games. They need the games, you know, in quick succession to really, really improve.
To pick 2 of the games then, because you were at both of these games, Tyrone beat Mayo at Healy Park on the Saturday 11 points to 9. And then on the Sunday, it finished Kerry 113, Armagh 13 points. So across those 2 games and those 4 teams, you got to see first, second and third in the league in Division 1 as things stand, and the defending All-Ireland champions. So maybe a different kind of a question. Which player's performance, which individual's performance caught your eye the most?
I would have to say it was Diarmuid O'Connor in midfield for Kerry. I think it's an area of the field that
for Mayo?
Kerry maybe... No, O'Connor for Kerry, midfield.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said Diarmuid O'Connor of Mayo. Diarmuid O'Connor of Kerry.
No, maybe I misspoke there. Sorry, but no, Diarmuid O'Connor from Mayo did not play at the weekend. Diarmuid O'Connor for Kerry in midfield in Armagh and the athletic grounds. I thought he was fantastic. I think it's an area of the field that Kerry probably needed to get younger, to get more athletic, and he showed an awful lot of athleticism in the game against Armagh. Really, some excellent high field and covering ground all over the field. Kicked a lovely score in the first half, and it was very, very difficult for Armagh against the wind to get out. And him and Jack Barry there have been performing very well, in all fairness, all throughout this league campaign so far. And they were just, they just controlled that area of the field. And when you consider the way Jack O'Connor has gone about preparing this Kerry team, where he's a very settled defence, where he's basically, tried to play the same players as often as he could. Foley's playing full back, O'Begley's playing half back, Tadhg Morley centre back. And then if you're getting that platform in midfield as well, and we all know about the quality that they have up front, whether it's Sean O'Shea and in particular David Clifford, who only played the second half. And if they can create that platform, well, then they're going to be very, very difficult to beat. And that's why I think his performance of the weekend was the most important that I'd seen.
We've been hearing across this campaign that Kerry are much stingier in defence. Is there anything in particular that they're doing, Billy Joe, in comparison with the last couple of years?
Well, as I said, I think it all comes out of understanding and consistency. I think that they're defending in numbers. I think that there's not very many gaps. They're very well connected, all the defenders. They're gang tackling when the opportunity arises, and they're being physical, like Tadhg Morley, Brian O'Begley, Tom O'Sullivan. And then at the same time, you're not really losing any of their footballing ability. O'Begley is good going forward. We know that Tom O'Sullivan's really good going forward as well. I think Jason Foley has been quite impressive in that he has the size and the speed to play that area or play that position at full back. I just think he's getting more experience. I think he's more protection in front of him, and that's why I think the Kerry full back line has performed better this year. So I think, Paddy Talley, Jack O'Connor, they deserve some credit for that. But I think overall, as opposed to any one thing, it's about just improved organisation. And it's always easier when you're a bunch of defenders if you have a good solid midfield platform in front of you as well.
Throw-in was delayed 10 minutes due to traffic, so there was a capacity 11,300 at the Athletic Grounds. I suspect a certain proportion of those fans are thinking to themselves, will I, won't I? David Clifford's there, I will. And he does have that stature in the game now. And even it was interesting, post-game, he's surrounded by kids in Armagh jerseys trying to get a selfie with David Clifford. He's just of a certain stature already. He came off the bench to score 1-2.
He did, and I was one of those late fans coming in, so I was glad that the game was delayed 10 minutes. And as it happened, where I ended up watching the game from was very close to where Clifford was for the second half. Into the wind, he was the furthest forward up the field on his own. Aidan Forker had the difficult task of trying to man mark him without really much help as Armagh were chasing the game. And you just see the movement, and the goal is a prime example of that, where he's in a position inside the 14-metre line. Forker has to play from in front in that situation. He fakes to go left into the corner. Stephen O'Brien obviously knows him well enough at this stage. Played a diagonal across towards the penalty spot, and Clifford's movement, dictated where that ball was going to be played, and then he slots it home in that situation. So I think the one thing that stands out from being close to him is that movement, but also, if I can add, that when you get up close to him, he looks so well conditioned. He's so big and strong. Aidan Forker is an extremely strong physical footballer, and he was able to stand up to every physical, nudge or hit he got and stay on his feet. And not only that, stay in control of the ball and finish then under severe pressure. He got another lovely point over on the other side of the field where he dummy bounced to get him the space to put him on his left foot. So it was worth the fee alone to go in and see him play 35 minutes at that level. He was exceptional for that period.
How do you stop him?
I think you need help. I think you can't find yourself in a situation like Armagh did. And the conditions played into that, where you're chasing a game against Kerry, you're 4 points down and you're having to commit numbers to attack. You're not creating the scoring chances yourself. In an ideal world, you need a solid man marker there. You need somebody sitting in front of him as well that's able to maybe cover off those diagonal balls that he's so clever at, creating runs for. Again, Paddy Clifford is out the field. The connection, obviously, that they have for obvious reasons. He played a lovely ball into him as well in the second half. So I think you need a sweeper in there in front of him at all times. And not only that, he's still going to get his hands on the ball, but then that sweeper needs to be able to get back as quickly as you can to try and bottle them up and maybe force them out wide, force them out further until you get more numbers back.
Yeah, I think you're right, because he looks impossible to stop one-on-one. If you're one-on-one with them, he can go either way, and he will go either way, and he'll score. You're dead.
Yeah, and his ball control is so good. He's got long arms. His solo is so quick, so snappy, that even if you try to punch it away, he's a solo. It's happened before you can even get your hand in there. And then that ability to kick off both feet. And I've never seen anyone as big as he is that can get the ball to his left boot as quickly as he can. It's like a snapshot. They talk about soccer players about a low, or a short backlift. He kind of nearly has that. It gets to his foot so quickly, and he can generate a lot of power that he can hurt you from anywhere inside the 45.
Yeah. Oh, his technique is very much his own. You don't see many with his technique.
No, and even I remember watching him as an underage player when I think he was playing Hogan Cup, and I was just baffled by the speed for a gangly sort of a teenager at that stage, that he can control the ball as well as he can, and at the same time get the ball to his boots basically as quick as he can to stop anyone being able to get in a block. He's a real short wind up in terms of his kick, and it makes it very, very difficult for him to block, and it's probably one of the reasons why he's such a dangerous player as well when he's close to goal for scoring goals, because he can get that shot away so quickly.
So Healy Park then for Tyrone 11 points, Mayo 9 points. Tyrone had a 5-point lead at half time. Mayo did get back to within a point, and then Tyrone pulled away. That's 2 defeats in a row for Mayo, which is a dent in their chances of making a league final. Kerry are already in a league final. Now Kerry have a reasonable gap before they have championship action after a league final. For Mayo, they have Galway incoming on the 24th of April. Is James Horan that upset to miss out on a league final? Is that more inconvenience in 2022 in comparison maybe with other seasons?
I think so, Joe. I think that when you look at Mayo's, the way they've treated these last couple of league games, and the way I expect them to treat the league game against Kildare next weekend, it does seem to me that they're focusing on playing that Galway championship game. The main thing for Mayo coming into this game, you always felt, was staying in the division, having been promoted last year. And they did that early on with the way they were able to, I suppose, grind out wins. And it just appears that Mayo were so dead, particularly in the first 15 minutes of the game against Tyrone. They looked real leggy. They were making simple handling errors. They looked tired at that stage. You just wonder when you're standing there watching, are Mayo in the middle of a heavy training load? Is this part of an overall plan for the preparation for the championship game, as opposed to having to figure out, getting the 2 points they need to get them to a league final, and then the possibility of playing Kerry again, having already played them a couple of weeks, and I'm not so sure that that's something that James Horan is keen on.
Was it difficult as a player, as an aside, to go through heavy training loads during the league campaign, where you were emptying yourself on a Tuesday and a Thursday, and you knew that you weren't going to be very good on the Saturday? Kind of counterintuitive.
It was. I found it very difficult, Joe, but then I found a lot of things quite difficult in those situations. I think for some of the more supreme athletes than myself, they were able to work really hard during the week and still have those energy levels to be really effective on the weekend. But I think even now we're seeing with the condensed season, with the important championship games coming up so quickly after the league campaign, the players and managers are afraid of injuries. They're wondering, when are we going to get the time on the training ground to work out these tactical things that we need to work on? Even the actual preparation you'll put into an opponent. You'll be preparing for, in normal championship circumstances, you'll be preparing for an opponent 3 and 4 weeks out, wondering what the matchups are going to be, what your kick-out strategy is going to be against that team. When you're in the middle of a National League campaign, you don't have time for that. You're just really going from week to week and trying to prepare as best you can, and at the same time do your pre-season training, and that's what makes it so difficult.
Mayo have lots of options in the forward line, and lots of players who've given very good accounts of themselves across this league campaign, and yet I'm sure talk in the county is of Cillian O'Connor and this Achilles injury last summer. Galway, April 24th in the Connacht quarter-final, like I mentioned, and no sign of Cillian O'Connor yet. What's the word here?
Well, it's a worry. We had all hoped that in Mayo, everyone had hoped that he'd be back for to play some football in the last 2 rounds of the league. There's only 1 league game left. I think that if you're James Horan, it would be logical that if he is fit to play, that he gets some minutes under his belt next week. It would seem that his recovery has taken that bit longer, and that is a worry considering how important he is to this Mayo team. He's the leader of the attack. They missed him terribly last year. It was great that Ryan O'Donoghue was able to stand up and has played brilliantly throughout this league as he did last year. But then when you add the injury of Tommy Conroy earlier in the season, you really could do with getting Cillian back to take some of that pressure off Ryan, because there were periods in the second half in particular against Tyrone when Mayo had the wind, where Ryan O'Donoghue was getting bottled up when he was the focus of all Tyrone defenders' attention, where if you had somebody like Cillian O'Connor with his ability to kick off both feet with the wind at his back, well, that would have given Mayo a much better chance of being successful.
I want to ask you about Aiden O'Shea. So generally, thus far in the campaign, I didn't see the game on Saturday, by the way. Hence, when you said Diarmuid O'Connor, I thought you were talking about Mayo's Diarmuid O'Connor. But Aiden O'Shea has come off the bench for Mayo on a few occasions this campaign to great effect. You know, against Dublin, people would have seen him come off, and just in that half back to centre midfield part of the pitch, winning possession, simple balls, and just a calm head and a serious physical presence to bring on late in the game. He was given the number 6 jersey in advance of Saturday. Did he play at number 6? And what do you think O'Shea's role will be when we get into the teeth of the championship?
Well, he played at number 6, and I suppose the game was dominated by the conditions. There was quite a strong wind that was worth a couple of points. And in the early stages in the game, you know, he probably was a bit too deep trying to protect the full back line in terms of the ball being in, and Tyrone were able to kind of run through or progress the ball maybe too far into the Mayo 45 and get their shots away. In possession, he was absolutely fine, as he always is. He's very good in those situations, help start a lot of attacks. I think it was very difficult for him to be really effective at that position, to play at that level against an organised team like Tyrone, the All-Ireland champions, and be really, really effective. I think that he would need much more time at number 6 to get used to the position and indeed to get used to the players around him. It's a lot easier to play number 6 for Mayo if you had Paddy Durcan on one side of you, where you could, and he wasn't playing, that you could give the ball to him and he could attack. Oisin Mullen was playing the other wing back and didn't have his best game. And then in the second half, when Mayo were chasing the game, you felt that he was nearly too far away from goal, and at times he was Mayo's deepest defender. So I think in terms of the outing, without laying the blame solely at Aiden in terms of his performance, it wasn't a tactical tweak that really worked. And I agree that I think his most impactful performances has been coming off the bench. And the key to that for me has been that he's been coming into the game at his best position in midfield, where he can be a physical presence, he can win the ball with his physicality and calmness on the ball, that he can, I suppose, deliver it to players a better position to create counter-attacks. And it will be interesting to see what James Horan decides is his best role for the summer, because there's no doubt any Mayo team will need Aiden O'Shea in some capacity against Galway in 5 weeks. Yeah, but would you suspect impact sub as opposed to starter these days for Aiden O'Shea? That's a big drop. That's a big mindset shift for him. I'm not so sure. I think he still has, in terms of James Horan putting his team together. Look, Matty Ruan has been outstanding midfield for Mayo all through last season. He's once he got a suspension out of the way this season as well, and the league games he's played, he's been great. One of Mayo's best performances again in Oma. He's going to play midfield. Jordan Flynn has been really solid, really hard working, put in a shift in all the league games, really disciplined in his tackling, and I think he's done enough to deserve a start. But Mayo have been playing with kind of 3 midfielders. Fionn McDonough played the last day, Jack Carney came on. They're both young players with potential. I wouldn't be surprised in a big game against Galway at home that the 3 kind of big, taller, more physical players that get to play in that area of the field would be Aiden O'Shea, Jordan Flynn and Matty Ruan. And one of them notionally lining out as a half forward, but generally doing midfield sort of things. Yeah. We can't touch on all the games, obviously. This is the glory of the league and the problem with trying to cover the league. It's worth mentioning Dublin 2-15, Donegal 2-11 at Croke Park, and the likes of Howard and Fenton, who had shaky form early on in the league. No surprises, they played very well, and they're coming back into themselves. Dean Rock and Niall Scully were very good as well. So suddenly that's Dublin 2 for 2. They will play Monaghan in Clonus, which will effectively be a relegation playoff on the assumption that other results go their way, which is very possible. One team we will see in Division 1 next year, Billy Joe, is Galway, who do play Mayo, as we said, on the 24th of April. So their big test really of the campaign thus far was up in Owenbeg against Derry, and they had an 11-point win, 4-11 to 12 points, the final score. They completely destroyed Derry in the first half. It can be hard to judge the league because of weather as much as anything. So Derry won the toss and opted to go against the wind. Now, we've seen this a few times. Like, you really take a risk because the game can feel over and you're broken by half time. That's what seemed to happen here to Derry. I mean, I would think play with the wind and let's try and put up a cricket score should be the policy. I definitely think that it's nearly like the debate about a time cost and a penalty shootout, that you always should go first. I think with the wind, with the way teams are defensively so good at setting up to frustrate teams, getting 12, 13, 14, 15 men behind the ball, and can be very hard to score against a team who's protecting a lead. All the teams, particularly top level teams, have got really good at that and then been dangerous on the counter-attack. So I think if you win the toss, and there's a wind, you have to play. You have to play with it. It's the best decision, particularly against a team like Galway, because if they get a run on you, they're very ruthless in those sort of situations, and that's exactly what happened against Derry. They're a team that are very dangerous for scoring goals, and I think one thing that their supporters will be very, very happy about is that they were able to put in a performance like that with Walsh not playing and not being lining out. And look, Damien Comer looked exceptionally sharp, and he looked lean and physical, and got a goal in the first half as well. And he's a player that they'll need if they're going to do big things in the championship. Matthew Tierney, then a younger player, he also had a very, very good game. And Paul Conroy, who's been like probably their most consistent performer throughout the last couple of years. I only saw them once in person this year when they played down in Newry, and they down are not going well. But in that game, it was Walsh, Comer and Conroy that were the leaders and that were the players that were driving this team on. And you would expect that they'll be relied upon again, particularly in that game against Mayo. But if you can have players like Tierney stepping up or Keneally in corner forward stepping up, well, then that's going to make the task of keeping that forward line quite all the more difficult.
Yeah, well, it's going to be one of the games of April anyway in the championship. We can say that much. Galway against Mayo. Billy Joe, great to have you on. Thanks so much.
No problem, Joe.
Cheers. Billy Joe Padden with us there.
Off the Ball on News Talk. Lunchtime Live.
On Lunchtime Live this week, we want to settle the age-old debate. To bean or not to bean? What's better, the Ulster or Irish fry?
3 sausages, 3 rashers, 2 hash browns, 2 fried eggs, some beans and some mushrooms, toast and tea, and then if you're hungry, maybe some
hungry?
French toast and chips afterwards as well.
Jesus, I tell you, 2 Rennies you'd want after that.
Lunchtime Live with Andrea Gilligan.
Brought to you by Avant Money.
Weekdays at midday on News Talk.